Hi everyone, it's Pat Michaud here, and I'm back with another business building tip for you. And today is a very popular topic. People often ask me about virtual assistants, and that's what I want to talk about today. And the reason being is because I have them in my business, and so I want to cover a few key elements here. I want to talk about recruiting virtual assistants, retaining virtual assistants, rewarding and recognizing virtual assistants, and firing virtual assistants. Yeah, we're going to deal with the conflict issue too. That's a big one. All right, so let's talk about virtual assistants. What are they? It is no different than having a personal assistant. Many of you have been in the corporate world. You know about having an executive assistant or a personal assistant in your business. And for many of you, you do need and should consider having a local personal assistant, depending on what kind of business you're running. I'm in the service industry. So I'm a business coach, I'm a professional speaker, and I am located in a city in Ontario, but I do business globally. And so I have virtual assistants in my business globally. Now, what is a virtual assistant, and what are some of the things that they do, and why do you have them, and all of that? Let's go. My thoughts are going to be random all over the place. Yes, I have my notes. I'm going to cover a lot of things, and they just might not be in order. So what is a virtual assistant? We've covered that. Why do you have one? Well, when I relaunched my business just over 7 years ago and hired my first coach, the first thing she said to me after I said, what I want in my business is to be fast-tracked. So I wanted to ensure, because of my age and stage in life, I wanted to fast-track, grow the business, and get on with doing the work that I'm here to do. She said to me, the first thing you need to do is hire a VA. I said, okay, I'm going to do everything you tell me. What's a VA? It's a virtual assistant. I said, great, where do you find these people? So virtual assistants are all around the world. They are global. You can find them anywhere. You can go online and you can Google virtual assistants, and all kinds of names will pop up. All right, so what does a virtual assistant do? Let me tell you about my first one in the first place, because in my business, which I was relaunching, and I had no clients, I had no money, one of the reasons I hired a virtual assistant, aside from the fact my coach told me to do it, and when you make a commitment to the coach, do what they tell you. They know what they're talking about. So I hired a virtual assistant, and we had determined in the beginning that I needed support in the area of administration, because when you get your business going and growing, many of us, that was me too, and many of you get caught up in administrivia. You get caught up in the busy work. That's not revenue generating. So the first commitment I had in hiring a virtual assistant, and I hired one at 5 hours a month, so that you can contract these services for a variety of hours. I started with 5 hours a month, which was doable, even though I couldn't afford it. I didn't have the money, and many of you were thinking that. How do I hire a VA when I'm not bringing in any money? Let me tell you something. When you hire a VA, which is what you should do, you'll get your butt out of bed and you will start making money, because when you have a commitment to somebody else on your team, you'll get out of bed, go make the money so you can pay them. If you're not paying yourself and you are a true professional with integrity and ethics, you'll get out of bed and go pay your team. All right, so that's a really good reason right there to hire a virtual assistant. I started at 5 hours a month, and I had them support me in the area of administrivia. Now, let me tell you also, when I hired my first VA, I made a huge mistake, big mistake. I did what my coach told me, but I didn't do the proper homework because I didn't know what I didn't know. So I hired the wrong VA. I hired someone who had labeled themselves the millionaire VA, and I thought, I want to be a millionaire, so I'm going to hire a millionaire VA. Paid a lot of money, and it was so stupid because it wasn't in alignment with what I needed for support in my business, and the fee was really out of my reach. So I self-sabotaged. But because I have a background in human resources, I was quite comfortable in the whole firing process. And so we ended that contract. I got smarter. I ask my coach for more guidance, and then I recognize that there's other VAs out there. So you can Google what VAs do, but let me just give you a bit of a sense of. You can hire a virtual assistant in the areas of helping you with blog postings, social media, technical support, administrivia, online management, email management, database management, webinar assistants. I mean, you can hire virtual assistants just about in every field that you can think of that is required in running a business. Now, what I would suggest to you is work with a coach and identify where you're at in your business and what makes sense with respect to who you hire, how much you pay them, and how many hours that you're hiring them for. So a few key tips on that. All right, so that's the what of a VA. So once I got past my mistake and I moved right along, right now in my business and, over the course of my business, I've had virtual assistants and have virtual assistants in different categories. Many of you know my business, and you know Cheryl, who's been on my team almost since the beginning. And, Cheryl actually was doing most of everything in my business in the beginning and years ago. Over time, my business evolved, she evolved, I evolved. And Cheryl's area of expertise and passion right now is in the techie field, and she is a master at that. So I need somebody as support in my business who knows and understands how to set up instant teleseminar for my monthly group calls. Someone who knows how to set up Zoom for the live trainings that I do. I mean, I'm clueless when it comes to the back end of all of that. And I don't need to know all that. Hire somebody who knows what they're doing. At the time when my business was growing, I also had Jade, who at the time was from Lithuania, who was handling my social media. Phenomenal gal, great talent, brilliant at what she did. But here's the thing, my business grew and my business evolved. And so as things changed and shifted, Cheryl's responsibilities changed. I came to the point, reached the point where Jade's services were no longer required because my business had changed. If you have any idea of how close Jade and I were and are, you can appreciate that those kinds of decisions can be very difficult because you get close to your team members. And so here's a key tip for you. You've got to remember this is about business. This is not personal. So keep emotions out of this and focus on the business. That doesn't mean that you end relationships, because Jade and I are still connected. And she has grown and evolved, and she's doing other things right now. So a number of key points in there. And the thing being that hire for where your business is at. Check in with your coach to make sure your hiring is in alignment. Now, when you hire a virtual assistant, make sure that you have a contract for services. And I'm speaking to both VAs and entrepreneurs out there. Make sure you have a contract for services and have things outlined in the contract. Review the contract together so that you understand what you're contracting for on both sides, and then sign the contract. Now, here's the other thing I want to say to many of you entrepreneurs and VAs too. Sign a contract for 6 months or a year. Forget this business of just poking around for a project or poking around for a month. That's ridiculous. Get in the game, get committed, be serious about it. Do your due diligence in advance. Have a few phone calls to pre-qualify, disqualify, determine whether or not you're in alignment, but then get in the game and commit to a contract, at least 6 months, if not a year. And I'll get into the point around communications and meetings. That's a key point in the whole contractual relationship. But have everything outlined in the contract, everything with respect to what's going to get done, duration of contract, fee for service, fees for services outside the hours. So if you're contracting for 5 hours a month, let's say, and your work is extending beyond that, you two need to be communicating, and you need to know in the beginning, you need to know and understand how your hours are tracking. Cheryl and I had that conversation all the time because I'd say to her, all right, I've got you for 5 or 10 hours and you're going to do my weekly e-zine, for example. How long does it take you to do an e-zine? Entrepreneurs, you've got to learn to ask the question. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I had to plan my budget, and Cheryl had to plan her time. So ask the questions. How long does it take to do an e-zine? 4 hours? Oh, and I only have you for 5? Perhaps I should consider 10 hours. So have those conversations, and the two of you need to be responsible as the month progresses to communicate what's going on, so there's no overage, there's no surprises, the entrepreneur's not getting a bill at the end of the month for extra hours. It's like, what's that all about? It's responsibility on both parts. Now, to you, the VAs, you must get in the habit, you're a business owner, of billing consistently, regularly, at the right time. And again, don't be surprising the entrepreneur. Stay in communication with them and get your billing done and get your billing out. You're in business. So that's a key point. And that's something I see with VAs all the time. Oh, I forgot to bill. Oh, my billing's late. Get it systematized. And VAs, you need a VA as you're growing your business. You can't do it all yourself either. You've got to start delegating yourself so you can grow your business. Okay, that was a little bit of a rant, but that's okay. Why you need a VA? Because you, the entrepreneur, need to be focusing on revenue generating activities. That is why you're in business. And so you outsource and delegate. And the way I coach my entrepreneurs is on Fridays, make a to-do list, take a good look at what's on that list, identify which items are revenue generating, which ones are non-revenue generating. Put an N or put an R beside it. If it is non-revenue generating, that's when you need to outsource to a virtual assistant. Now, as you look at that list and you can batch those non-revenue generating items, you can identify right away, are the majority administrative, are the majority techie, are the majority, and so that will help you determine the type of VA that you want to contract. Now, as your business grows, you've got to have more than one VA. Cheryl and I, we grew together. We kind of became like an old married couple. But we grew together, and we knew it was time to add to the team. When you're adding to a team, let's say it's you and one VA, and you've been together a while, out of professional courtesy, have the conversation with your VA. My business is changing and evolving. Here's what's happening. And so I'm going to be adding to the team. You and I will have the conversation about who we add to the team, because synergy, energy, personality, all of that needs to be in alignment so that you enhance the team and not irritate the team. That's the entrepreneur's responsibility. Be proactive, be professional, be considerate in those ways. All right, where are these VAs? Well, they're everywhere. Jade was in Lithuania, Cheryl's in California, Denise is in Pennsylvania. I have a personal assistant right here in London. And so they're all over the world. And what I loved about that was it kept my business going almost 24/7. But again, you need to know and figure out for yourself, do you need a VA in the same time zone for certain reasons? And or can you manage your business and the communications where somebody, for example, if you're East Coast, they're West Coast? I mean, that brings up issues with respect to team meetings or when you schedule certain trainings. I schedule my Zoom trainings at 11 a.m. Eastern because I know Cheryl's up on the West Coast and ready to help me behind the scenes. So things to consider. When to hire, I mentioned that right out of the gate. Hire right out of the gate. And then remember, as your business grows, who got you here won't get you there. What got you here won't get you there. So as your business grows from 0 to 6 figures to multiple 6 figures, you need to stop and assess with your coach as to who do you need to support you? What competencies do you need? And then assess, do your homework, and add to the team and or shift team responsibilities. And as you can sense by now, this takes a lot of communication. You've got to be communicating. So let me talk about that for a minute. Once you hire a VA, say for 6 months or a year, I suggest that you have at least 2 meetings a week. Minimum 15 minutes, have an agenda, let people know if it's 1 or 2 people. Be courteous as the entrepreneur and put your agenda together in advance of the meeting. And as a VA, you need to contribute as well. So make sure the entrepreneur knows that you have items you want to talk about. For us, in the beginning of the week, we talk about the business as a whole. Towards the end of the week, the meeting is a real quick round table. What's working, what's not. And what's working, rinse and repeat and celebrate. What's not, bring a solution to the meeting as well. Don't just bring up a problem, either one of you. In the communications, listen, everything is not unicorns and rainbows all the time. There's going to be problems. There's going to be issues. Now, if you have a team, then don't bring up a personality issue or a one-on-one issue in the team where you really should have a one-on-one conversation with that VA. Have the one-on-one first and then bring the item to the table, not about the person. So you've got to learn some communication skills here. The conflict should be handled in private. The celebrations should be handled as a team. Start your team meetings by celebrating. And so I suggest at least 2 to 3 conversations a week when you're getting started, and keep the communication flowing. And where there is an issue, deal with it right away. VAs, I know you like to hide behind your computer. I know that. That solves nothing. And remember, it's a business. It's not personal. So put your business owner hat on and act like one. You've got to learn to deal with conflict. And entrepreneurs, you've got to deal with the issue, not the person. Because most times sometimes it is the person, and that person has to go. My philosophy is hire slow, fire fast. Key things. Now, when you have a great team, listen, entrepreneurs, quit being so cheap. You've got to recognize and reward your team. When I gift my clients something, I gift my team something. And what I love to do too is to surprise them sometimes, and out of the blue, for no given reason, say the third Monday in July, send a bouquet of flowers. It's like, come on, treat them like people. Treat them like you would like to be treated. So just, go out of your way and recognize they're people first. They have families and they have scenarios that they're dealing with, which brings up another issue. Entrepreneurs, when you have a VA, you've got to recognize and have some boundaries that there are hours of operation. Many of you are abusing your VAs, and I'm going to get to the VA here in a minute, but many of you are abusing your VAs. You're sending emails and text messages all hours of the day. Now listen, if that's your strategy to just get stuff out of your head, fine. But if it's your expectation that your VA is on call, that is unacceptable unless you're paying them a premium rate for being on call. Now listen, in my business, there's points in the year, and you all know I host a 3-day event in October in Toronto. So my team knows that come August, September, we're all working like crazy. And the team rallies, and I respect that and I appreciate that. But listen, other times, they have a family. So be sensitive to that. Now, VAs, you've got to learn to draw a line in the sand. You've got to learn to speak up and say to the entrepreneur, these are my hours of work. Of course, there's going to be times I recognize that there's going to be communication outside of that. But the expectation is I'm not going to be on call. You've got to communicate that up front and regularly, particularly if either one of you sense abuse is happening. VAs, when you're going on vacation, when you have a family commitment, when you have appointments, and you know something is in the works in the business, communicate to the entrepreneur. My team is phenomenal at that. If they're going to be out of the office, when they know that we've got something in progress. Communication is key. We hear it all the time, but it's true. So talk to each other. Don't be letting surprises build up. Don't go off on vacation and have your entrepreneur realize they're on vacation. Crap, I've got work that needs to be done. But then again, it comes back to your planning. So all kinds of issues I know that have come up. Now, that leads me to another thing. A few years ago, Cheryl and I were on a call, and I said to her, Cheryl, I've just got a dump here. I mean, there's so many things about the VA world that's driving me nuts. And Cheryl said, because she knows and loves me and we're open with each other, she said, there's a lot of things about you entrepreneurs that drives me nuts too, or drives the VA world nuts. I said, hey, you know what? We need to hop on a call, you and I, and we've got to put this into a recording so that other people know and recognize that this is reality. This is the world. I just got to get rid of a message here. And so Cheryl and I got on a call. It's Pat and Cheryl Unplugged. The good, the bad, and the ugly of working with a VA. So Cheryl's going to put the link in the forum here. I gave her a heads up on this. We thought it might be entertaining for you to listen to that audio. It was recorded a few years ago, but there's still some good content on there. So anyway, I love Cheryl, and I love the fact that we were so open and honest and supportive. Oh, there we go. She's put the link up. All right. So when to hire, recruit, retain, and then it comes down to communication. I got that. Conflict, I got that. Firing, do it in person. In other words, don't text to fire a VA or to fire an entrepreneur. Listen, have the courage, have the guts, and be human, and get on a Skype video call and look the person in the eye. And again, talk about the situation. It's not about the person for the most part. Like I said, it might be the person, but for the most part, the business has changed. The roles have changed. Get on a video call. I see the person's eyeballs and give them fair notice. VAs, you've got to put in your contract, or entrepreneurs, put in your contract a period, a termination period, so everybody knows what the deal is. All right, so I think I've covered all the points here. I'm looking at some of the comments that have come up. Lisa had mentioned about boundaries. That's absolutely key, and it's the responsibility of both parties. You want to grow your business, you need a great team. And to have a great team, you need to be a great leader. And many entrepreneurs, I know, I have an HR background. Most of you don't. And when you recognize that, get help from your coach on how to hire, retain, reward, and fire and deal with conflict with your team members. In that way, you're going to have a cohesive team. My team have been with me for the most part 4, 5, 6 years. Unheard of in the industry. My HR background has played a big part in that. And the fact I send chocolates and flowers. That always helps too. Okay, those are the key points. Put your comments and questions below. I'll be happy to answer them. I'll be checking in between calls this afternoon. But otherwise, I believe I've covered most of the tips here. Get a VA, treat your VA well. They will treat you well. Communication's key. Deal with the conflict. And you too will have a long-lasting, loving, supportive relationship. That's it. Go out there and get yourself a great team. Bye, everyone.